6 years on from suffering a motocross-like injury, the outrageously classy center-back is starting for the Azzurri in Germany. Riccardo Calafiori was 16 years of age. He'd only just signed his first professional contract with Roma, and yet he was being told that his career might already be over. In the 82nd minute of a UEFA Youth League game against Victoria Plzen, he'd been left with a right knee swollen so badly that it was 3 times the size of his left, after being on the receiving end of a shocking studs-up tackle from Vaclav Svoboda. Some of the specialists that assessed the damage done couldn't believe what they'd seen. All of the ligaments had been ruptured, along with his meniscus and articular capsule. Something like this usually only happens in motocross, not in football, a medic told the Corriere dello Sport. It's an injury that happens only once every 10 years. Looking back on it now, Calafiori says he was probably lucky that it happened while he was still so young, because he didn't quite fully grasp the gravity of the situation. But that doesn't make his defiant reaction to such a serious setback any less remarkable. "The time has come to truly bring out everything that I have inside," he wrote on Instagram just the day after his entire world had been turned upside down. "This time, no decisive match, no final to win. There is the most important battle of my life ahead of me, and I certainly cannot back down. The time has come to put aside the boy, the, at times, little boy that I have been until now, and become a man. A bad knee injury will keep me sidelined for a long period and will keep me away from the pitch, but the desire to come back stronger than before will increase every day. For the umpteenth time I find myself faced with a very difficult challenge, but, as always, I will win." Road to recovery. Calafiori was sidelined for 347 days before making his comeback in a game for Roma's Primavera at the start of the 2019-20 season. Unsurprisingly, there were doubts over whether he would still be the same player after the hardest journey of his life. After all, Calafiori couldn't have been held in higher esteem at Roma before his injury. Even the first-team squad were aware of his prodigious talent. Indeed, after scoring in the senior side's Champions League clash with Plzen just hours after Calafiori had been rushed to hospital, Edin Zico ran to the bench and held up a shirt with the youngster's name and number on the back. 2.5 years later, the attacking left-back teed the Bosnian up for a decisive equalizer as Roma reached the semi-finals of the Europa League with a 1-1 draw with Ajax at the Stadio Olimpico. At the time, Roma fans were optimistic that the club had unearthed another bandiera, literally meaning flag in Italian, but more akin to a symbol in a sporting sense, like Francesco Totti and Daniele De Rossi, a local lad destined to become a Giallorossi legend. Paulo Fonseca, Roma's coach at the time, was wary of such hyperbole, adamant that Calafiori needed time to grow without any undue pressure being placed on his young shoulders. Suddenly treating him like he's the best in the world right now is not helpful for the player, the Portuguese warned, but we trust he'll have a great future. Unfortunately for Calafiori, Fonseca parted company with the club in the summer of 2021 and was replaced at the helm by Jose Mourinho, a manager with an infamously poor record when it comes to getting the best out of young talents. It, thus, came as little surprise to see the supposed special one throw Calafiori under the bus, along with Brian Reynolds and Marash Kumbula, in October 2021, as he looked to send a very pointed message to his new employers about the alleged weakness of the Roma squad. Less than 3 months later, Calafiori was loaned to Genoa. At the end of the 2021 to 2022 season, he was sold to Basel for just €2.6 million, or £2.2 million, or $2.8 million. Roma's regrets. De Rossi recently admitted that he still finds the nature of Calafiori's exit tough to stomach. Having returned to Roma as coach in January, succeeding Mourinho at the helm, he remains disgusted that such a promising player was allowed to leave the club, and for such a small fee, with no buyback or sell-on clause included either. De Rossi acknowledges that Calafiori wasn't ready to become a starter while still only a teenager, but felt that his potential was obvious. Even more frustratingly for the former Italy midfielder, he thought all along that Calafiori had the makings of a fine center-back, which is exactly what he's become thanks in no small part to one of De Rossi's former international colleagues, Thiago Motta. From Basel to Bologna, Calafiori obviously didn't want to leave Roma in the first place, but Felt that he had no option at the time. I played a bit under Mourinho at Roma, but I wanted to play more, so I went to Genoa and it didn't go well, he told reporters earlier this month. There wasn't space for me there either, so then I went to Basel. I wasn't too convinced initially. I was almost obliged to go to find first-team football. But I immediately changed my mind. They had everything a young player needs to develop. I made 30 appearances for the first time, which helped me grow. Even more significantly, when Heiko Vogel took over from Alexander Frey as Basel boss in February of last year, Calafiori saw more and more game time as a center back. Bologna were watching with interest and snapped him up for just €4 million at the end of his one and only season in Switzerland, with Mata convinced that Calafiori was the kind of multi-talented player that could excel in his fluid 4-3-3 formation if moved into the middle on a permanent basis. Basel, though, didn't make the same mistake as Roma. A 40% sell-on clause was included in the deal, and sooner or later, they're going to make a massive profit on a player that was attracting attention from some of the game's biggest clubs, even before announcing himself to a wider audience with a stellar display in Italy's Euro 2024 opening round win over Albania last Saturday. City's Stone's successor, to call the 2023-24 season Calafiori's breakout campaign, would be putting it mildly. He was absolutely immense as Bologna stunned the world of Italian football by qualifying for the Champions League via a fifth-placed finish in Serie A, wowing a country renowned for producing quality defenders with his reading of the game and his comfort in possession. The longer the season went on, the louder the clamor for Calafiori to be included in Luciano Spalletti's squad for Euro 2024 became. There were no guarantees that he'd make the cut, given he'd played just 95 minutes of international football before the traveling party was announced, but injuries to Francesco Acerbi and Giorgio Scalvini undoubtedly aided his cause. However, Spalletti may well have included Calafiori anyway, given he's been so impressed with the 22-year-old's ability on the ball that he even deployed him as a number 10 in one Italy training session. Anyone that's seen him in action will understand why. This is a defender that is wonderfully adept at breaking the line and creating both space, time, and opportunities for teammates. He ended the season with 5 assists from center back, and one of the 2 goals he scored against Juventus last month was an outrageous dink finish. After that game, teammate Riccardo Orsolini was comparing him to Paolo Maldini, while Fabrizio Ravanelli said as far back as April that Calafiori would be the ideal long-term replacement for John Stones at Manchester City. He's a perfect fit for Guardiola's style because he can play various defensive roles, the former Italy striker told Tuttosport. Calafiori is excellent at starting attacks, as well as in marking and passing. Moreover, he seems to have a strong personality. In short, he would be an excellent addition. Evoking icons. Even though Bologna have been bullish about holding on to Calafiori, the transfer talk is only going to intensify if the Roman builds on his impressive showing against Albania, in what was just his 3rd appearance for his country, and only his 2nd start, when Italy faced Spain in a massive Group B clash in Gelsenkirchen on Thursday. Stopping a slick side that tore Croatia to shreds last weekend will not be easy. But you get the feeling nothing ruffles Calafiori. He looks like a throwback to the Italy of Maldini, Alessandro Nesta and Fabio Cannavaro, and he plays with the same seemingly effortless class and composure as them too. I just try to play like at club level and not think about the rest, he told Sky Sport Italia on Saturday night. I focus only on positive sensations like my family in the stands or friends watching back home on television, and I think I did pretty well. There's certainly no doubt about that. The kid that was told his career might be over 6 years ago is now a man with the brightest possible future ahead of him.